Jackson Carter stepped into the Willow Creek Tavern on what he thought would be a quiet evening. Little did he know, this night would spark a series of events that would change not only his life, but also the lives of those around him. Reserved yet self-assured, Jackson was no stranger to being judged. Over the years, he had faced criticism numerous times, especially while proudly wearing his blue cap embroidered with the words, "United We Stand." For Jackson, the cap symbolized his beliefs and values, principles he held dear. However, he never anticipated the hostility it would provoke that evening. As Jackson entered, the familiar hum of chatter and the clinking of glasses welcomed him. The tavern, known for its warm and inclusive atmosphere, had been his sanctuary for years, not just as its owner, but as someone who believed in building a space where everyone could belong. What Jackson didn't expect was the cold reception he would receive from Lyla Anderson, the new bartender who had been working there for just 2 weeks. Lyla, a passionate and outspoken woman, had taken the job at Willow Creek Tavern after leaving a corporate environment that clashed with her ideals. For her, the tavern wasn't just a place of employment. It represented a fresh start and a chance to contribute to a community that valued inclusivity. Her fiery personality and sharp wit had quickly made her popular with certain patrons, though her strong opinions sometimes led to heated debates. Lyla was someone who wore her beliefs on her sleeve, often engaging customers in discussions about social issues and standing firmly for what she thought was right. That evening, as she worked behind the bar, her eyes fell on Jackson. At first, he seemed like just another customer, seated quietly with a menu in hand. But then she noticed his cap. To Lyla, it wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was a symbol of division and intolerance, a stark contrast to the safe and welcoming space she believed the tavern represented. Her mind raced as she debated her response. Should she ignore it and carry on with her work, or should she confront Jackson and take a stand for what she believed in? Determined to act, Lyla approached Jackson's table, her expression calm but her heart pounding. Jackson greeted her with a polite smile. "Good evening," he said warmly. Lyla's professionalism wavered as she responded, "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to remove your cap. It's making some of our patrons uncomfortable." Jackson raised an eyebrow, his expression calm and measured. "I see," he said. "I'm not sure how my cap is affecting anyone, but I'm happy to sit quietly and enjoy my drink." Lyla crossed her arms, her voice tightening. "This isn't just about you. That cap represents something that goes against what we stand for here. I'm going to have to insist that you take it off or leave." Jackson remained composed. "With all due respect, I'm here as a paying customer. I'm not causing any trouble, and I'd like to stay." Lyla, unwilling to back down, raised her voice slightly. "If you won't leave, I'll have to involve the authorities." Jackson's expression softened, but his resolve didn't falter. "Do what you feel is necessary," he said quietly, returning his attention to the menu. The tension in the room was palpable as patrons began whispering among themselves. Some supported Lyla, viewing her actions as a stand against perceived intolerance, while others felt the situation was being blown out of proportion. Ignoring the growing unease, Lyla stepped away to call the police. When the officers arrived, the tavern grew even quieter. 2 uniformed figures entered, commanding immediate attention. Lyla hurried to explain her version of events, pointing toward Jackson, who remained seated and composed. One of the officers approached Jackson, who greeted them with his usual calm demeanor. "Good evening, officers," Jackson said. "I'm not sure why I'm being asked to leave, but I'm happy to explain my side." As the officers listened to both accounts, the situation began to unravel. Jackson's polite manner stood in stark contrast to Lyla's escalating frustration. Several patrons spoke up, some defending Lyla's stance, but many voicing their support for Jackson, emphasizing that he had done nothing wrong. Eleanor, a regular customer who had been coming to the tavern for years, stepped forward. "I've seen him here before," she said. "He's always been respectful and keeps to himself." As the situation escalated, the tavern's manager, Danielle Porter, arrived, alerted by frantic messages from the staff. Taking stock of the scene, Danielle quickly approached Jackson. "I'm so sorry about all this," Danielle said, handing Jackson a drink. "Let's talk privately tomorrow." Jackson nodded, his expression unreadable. I appreciate that, Danielle. I'll finish my drink and be on my way. As Jackson left the tavern, the room buzzed with speculation and divided opinions. Lyla, still convinced she had done the right thing, felt vindicated by the support of some patrons. However, Danielle's quiet frustration was evident, and she signaled to Lyla that they needed to have a serious discussion later. Back at home, Jackson reflected on the events of the night. He felt a deep sense of disappointment, not only in Lyla's actions but also in how the tavern, a place he had built on the principles of respect and community, had become the site of such conflict. Meanwhile, Lyla continued her shift, grappling with the lingering tension. For the first time, she began to question whether her principles had clouded her judgment. This confrontation had set the stage for a transformative journey for both Jackson and Lyla, a story of pride, humility, and the power of second chances. The following morning, Jackson Carter sat at his desk, the night's events still fresh in his mind. Disappointment weighed heavily on him. As the founder and owner of the Willow Creek Tavern, Jackson had always prided himself on creating a space that celebrated inclusivity, respect, and community. It wasn't just a business to him. It was a reflection of his values, a place where anyone, regardless of their background, could feel welcome. The conflict with Lyla Anderson had not only shaken him but had also highlighted a deeper issue within the tavern's culture, one that needed immediate attention. Jackson picked up the phone and dialed Danielle Porter, the tavern's manager. Danielle had been with the establishment for years and was someone Jackson trusted deeply. Her calm demeanor and exceptional leadership had been instrumental in maintaining the tavern's reputation as a cornerstone of the community. When Danielle answered, Jackson wasted no time. "We need to address what happened last night," Jackson said firmly. "I'd like to meet with Lyla today. Can you arrange that?" Danielle hesitated for a moment. "Of course," she replied. "I'll let her know, but I think she's already feeling the weight of what happened. She seemed unsettled by everything." "Good," Jackson said. "This isn't about punishing her. It's about making sure she understands what this place stands for. Let's schedule the meeting for this afternoon." Meanwhile, Lyla was still processing the fallout from the previous night. The revelation that Jackson was the owner of the Willow Creek Tavern had hit her like a freight train. She had spent the night replaying the incident in her mind, torn between her conviction that she had acted on principle and the nagging guilt that she might have overstepped. When Danielle informed her about the meeting, Lyla's heart sank. Anxiety gripped her as she realized the potential consequences of her actions. She had taken this job as a chance to start over, to be part of a space that aligned with her values. Now, she feared she might have jeopardized it all. The meeting took place in a quiet corner of the tavern, away from the hustle and bustle of the morning prep. Jackson sat at a small table, his demeanor calm but authoritative. Lyla entered hesitantly, her usual confidence replaced by apprehension. Danielle joined them, sitting silently as a mediator. "Lyla," Jackson began, his voice steady, "thank you for coming. I wanted to have this conversation face-to-face because what happened last night is something we need to address directly." Lyla nodded, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I understand," she said softly. "I just want to say I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. That wasn't my intention." Jackson leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "I believe you when you say that. But intention and impact are two very different things. Last night, your actions went against the core values of this establishment. The Willow Creek Tavern was built on the principles of respect and understanding. It's a place where everyone should feel welcome, regardless of their beliefs or appearances." Lyla looked down, guilt washing over her. "I thought I was standing up for what's right," she admitted. "But now, I realize I let my emotions take over. I judged you without knowing anything about you, and I'm truly sorry for that." Jackson nodded, appreciating her honesty. "We all make mistakes, Lyla. What matters is how we choose to move forward. I'm not here to end your career over this, but there need to be consequences. I'm placing you on a temporary suspension, effective immediately. During this time, I want you to reflect on what it means to be part of this team and to uphold the values we stand for." Lyla's eyes widened, but she didn't argue. "I understand," she said quietly. "Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right." After the meeting, Danielle escorted Lyla back to the main floor. "It's going to be okay," Danielle reassured her. Jackson sees potential in you, or he wouldn't have given you another chance. Use this time wisely. Over the next few days, the atmosphere at the tavern began to shift. Patrons who had witnessed the confrontation discussed it amongst themselves, their opinions as divided as ever. Some admired Lyla's courage, while others criticized her for overstepping her boundaries. Jackson, however, remained focused on the bigger picture. He spent more time at the tavern, engaging with staff and customers alike, determined to reinforce the culture of respect and inclusivity that he had worked so hard to build. For Lyla, the suspension was a wake-up call. She used the time to reflect deeply on her actions and their consequences. She realized that her passion for standing up for her beliefs had blinded her to the importance of empathy and understanding. She began reading books on conflict resolution and diversity, seeking to expand her perspective and learn from her mistakes. When her suspension ended, Lyla returned to the tavern with a renewed sense of purpose. She approached her work with humility, treating every patron with kindness and respect, regardless of their background or beliefs. She made a conscious effort to listen more and speak less, focusing on building connections rather than drawing lines. Jackson kept a close eye on her progress, quietly impressed by her transformation. He saw in Lyla a determination to grow, and he knew that giving her a second chance had been the right decision. The staff, initially wary of her return, began to warm up to her as they witnessed her genuine efforts to change. By the end of her probationary period, Lyla had not only regained the trust of her colleagues, but had also earned the respect of the patrons. She had become a symbol of redemption and growth, embodying the very values the Willow Creek Tavern stood for. Through it all, Jackson remained a steady presence, guiding the tavern through the aftermath of the incident and ensuring that the lessons learned would resonate for years to come. The experience had reinforced his belief in the power of second chances and the importance of leading with compassion and understanding. The transformation that followed the conflict at the Willow Creek Tavern became a turning point, not just for Lyla Anderson, but for the entire establishment. As Lyla worked to rebuild her reputation and earn back trust, the lessons from that night began to resonate throughout the staff and patrons alike. What initially seemed like an isolated incident revealed deeper truths about judgment, assumptions, and the power of redemption. Lyla's journey wasn't easy. She approached each day with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to prove that she could grow from her mistakes. She made it a point to treat every customer with kindness, no matter how different their beliefs might be from hers. Rather than reacting impulsively, she learned to listen first, giving others the benefit of the doubt and recognizing the value of diverse perspectives. Her colleagues noticed the change almost immediately. The fiery, opinionated bartender who had once clashed with customers was now someone who radiated professionalism and understanding. Even the regular patrons began to see Lyla in a new light. Those who had supported her actions during the confrontation started to admire her humility and willingness to learn. Meanwhile, those who had criticized her for overstepping began to soften, appreciating her efforts to make amends. One evening, as Lyla worked behind the bar, she found herself serving Eleanor, the older woman who had defended Jackson that fateful night. Eleanor sipped her drink thoughtfully before speaking. "You know, Lyla," she said, "I wasn't sure about you at first, but seeing the way you've handled things these past few weeks, it takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong and even more to make it right." Lyla smiled, grateful for the kind words. "Thank you, Eleanor. I've learned a lot from this experience. It's made me realize how important it is to see people for who they are, not just what they represent." Eleanor nodded approvingly. "That's the spirit, dear. Keep it up." For Jackson, watching Lyla's growth was a validation of his decision to give her a second chance. He had always believed in the power of grace and the importance of leading by example. Instead of letting the incident divide the tavern, he used it as an opportunity to bring people closer together. He held a staff meeting to address what had happened, encouraging open dialogue and emphasizing the values of respect and understanding that the tavern was built upon. "Everyone here has a story," Jackson said during the meeting. "We all carry our beliefs, our experiences, and our struggles. But what makes this place special is that it's a space where those differences don't separate us, they bring us together. Let's never lose sight of that." The staff left the meeting feeling inspired and united, determined to uphold the principles Jackson had outlined. The Willow Creek Tavern became more than just a bar. It became a beacon of community and acceptance, a place where people could come as they were and feel truly welcome. Over time, Lyla and Jackson's relationship evolved from one of tension and misunderstanding to mutual respect and collaboration. Jackson appreciated Lyla's passion and dedication, while Lyla admired Jackson's calm strength and unwavering commitment to his values. They didn't always see eye to eye, but they learned to find common ground and work together to create a positive environment for everyone who walked through the tavern's doors. One day, Jackson decided to share his own story with Lyla. Sitting at a quiet table after closing time, he opened up about the significance of the blue cap he often wore. "This cap," Jackson began, holding it in his hands, "it's more than just a symbol to me. It represents my late father, a man who believed deeply in unity and perseverance. He used to say, 'United we stand,' whenever things got tough. It's a reminder of where I come from and the values I strive to live by." Lyla listened intently, her eyes reflecting both understanding and regret. "I judged you without knowing any of that," she admitted. "I let my assumptions get the better of me, and I'm so sorry for that." Jackson smiled gently. "We all make mistakes, Lyla. What matters is what we do next. And from what I've seen, you've done everything you can to make things right." As the weeks turned into months, the incident that had once threatened to divide the tavern became a source of inspiration and growth. Lyla's transformation served as a powerful reminder of the importance of humility and the potential for change. Patrons who had witnessed the conflict often remarked on how much the tavern had grown stronger in its aftermath. The staff, too, became more mindful of their interactions with one another and with customers. They took Jackson's words to heart, striving to create an atmosphere where everyone felt valued and respected. The Willow Creek Tavern thrived, its reputation as a welcoming and inclusive space growing even stronger. For Lyla, the experience was life-changing. She not only became a better bartender, but also a better person. Her newfound perspective extended beyond her work, influencing how she approached relationships and challenges in her personal life. She often reflected on the lessons she had learned, grateful for the second chance Jackson had given her. Jackson, for his part, continued to lead with integrity and compassion. He remained a steady presence at the tavern, always ready to lend an ear or offer guidance when needed. The cap he wore became less of a focal point and more of a symbol of the unity and understanding that had come to define the Willow Creek Tavern. In the end, the tavern's story became one of redemption and resilience. It stood as a testament to the power of forgiveness, the strength of community, and the belief that people are capable of change. For everyone involved, it was a reminder that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places, and that with respect, understanding, and a little grace, it's possible to turn even the most challenging moments into opportunities for growth.